Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by A Better Way Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with A Better Way Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space. All right, we're back for another episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast, and we're continuing on with the Behind the Broker series. We're very fortunate to have Ruby Bains, one of the original mortgage architect brokers with A Better Way, going on 8 years now. Very fortunate again to have you on the show. So thank you so much for being here. We're really looking forward to just getting into your career, your background, and where you are today. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So Deryk's joining me here today. We're just going to follow the same flow that we've had with previous brokers on the show. And, really it starts with the introduction to yourself and your background and, ultimately what led you to the career of the mortgage industry. And I'm sure it started in some financial space that wasn't a mortgage broker specifically. So yeah, where did it all start?
Yeah, so I started in the banking industry. I was in that space for 25 years. And then I've been a broker now for 8 years. So the 25 years in banking experience, I started as a teller and worked my way up to a branch manager. I had the opportunity to manage small, medium, large size branches. And I think this banking experience gave me a really solid foundation on both investments, wealth management, and lending. My banking background allows me to give a little bit more of a holistic approach to my clients when I'm dealing with mortgage interactions. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, you're a client with a portfolio of properties, or you're looking for a reverse mortgage, commercial construction, because of my experience, I'm able to help guide you through that journey. And I'm also licensed in BC and Alberta.
You really did see it all from the bank side of things. I mean, 25 years is a substantial amount of time to really kind of touch each part of the branch. And then being a branch manager, you would have oversaw all of those roles and responsibilities. What stuck out to you within that experience to ultimately lead into, mortgages specifically and only mortgages?
Yeah, so my last 15 years was a branch manager in my banking career. So stepping into the mortgage space was a little bit different because I went from approving deals to now meeting clients, collecting documents, underwriting. So there was some growing pains stepping into the space, but it's the best decision I made and I love what I do.
Given where you are now, I mean, they're two totally different roles, and one's entrepreneurial and one's more management. How would you say, you gauge that between managing people and now dealing directly with consumers and clients?
Yeah, so it's really not much different. Instead of managing people, you're managing clients and you're managing their expectations. So at the end of the day, it's instead of managing employees, now you're using that same process to work with your clients.
While you were at the bank, just shared 15 years as a branch manager and approving deals. I know it's a bit of a different process depending on the institution. At what point would you get involved? Would the deal already be, packaged and you're just essentially making that decision? And how did that help you, evaluate risk and then translate that into your career now as a mortgage broker?
Yeah, so the deal would be presented with a bow on it. I basically had to review the documents, make sure, things like income, appraisal, all the debt servicing. It was more just high level because my assistant manager would have probably reviewed the deal before I even got it. So it was more just looking big picture and just making sure everything looked good from a risk and audit standpoint.
What institution were you with? Or did that change over time? Or
Yeah, so I started my career at Van City as a teller,
okay.
And I finished there as a financial advisor. Then I moved to Coast Capital, again in the financial advisor category. I went into insurance, and then I decided to go into management and became assistant manager, branch manager. And then from there, I moved to Vancouver and I joined GNF Financial Group.
Okay.
So I was with them for 11 years.
Did you find that the process of, like you mentioned, you were approving those deals as a branch manager, did you find that different at each institution, or did that evolve over your career?
It was pretty similar. Like a mortgage is a mortgage, right? The underwriting, the due diligence is pretty much the same. Of course, the guidelines may be slightly different, but because I was in the credit union space, it was pretty similar from the three different institutions.
And did you find the relationship with a member of that institution had weight. And the reason I ask that is like where we are today as mortgage brokers, most cases that's not really a factor
Right.
in the deal getting approved, right? Did that have any influence on the approval process at the institution?
Yeah, definitely. It was sort of the holistic approach in terms of what products did they have, were they a full
Right.
service member. Credit unions sort of thrive on creating that relationship with the client. It's not just a one product transaction. So we were all trained to promote and cross sell and, tie that client in so that we can offer them all different services that the bank offered.
Which I feel like we kind of lost a lot of that in our space, right? And like if there is somebody, let's say at a bank that we deal with that has all these products, like it doesn't really factor into the decision to approve the deal, like if ratios are tight or what have you. Do you miss any of the control or flexibility that you had at the institution to where you are now as a broker?
I don't miss the control. I guess when you worked at the branch, you knew exactly where the deal was. As a broker, you're always kind of waiting to see where it is in the queue. Has anybody picked it up? Is it approved? What stage it's at? So that part's very different. But as far as talking about all the other products and services, it's still part of my process.
Yeah.
I'll still have the conversation around insurance and wills and kids and do they have our ESP set up? So it's still something I do even as a broker.
Which is rare, I must add. I was just going to add one piece while we're kind of talking about your resume and history in banking. I think a lot of people, if you've been able to gain that level of experience and the time invested at the bank and all these different, components of the industry, lending, investments, all that kind of stuff, I'd like to ask you, but I have to assume that the knowledge that you took out of there has probably really helped you understanding the lender side and what they want to see and how to deal with lenders to make a deal work, right? Is that a big piece that you took away from experience?
100%, because I know sort of what's being looked at from both ends, what the client's hoping to accomplish and what the lender's seeing. Because, I had to go through audits and compliance. So that was a big part of my role as well. So I'm able to put myself through that entire journey, both from the client standpoint and the lender.
And we've received so much positive feedback about you from lenders, right? Which we don't always receive. So it goes to show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And we'll transition into client relationships, but like just relationships in general, the ones that we have with our lender partners are so important. And, how you treat those people is, of course, like obvious to folks like us, but not for others, right? Especially when you're waiting on a deal and just, the pressure from the client, the realtor, what have you. Sometimes it gets downloaded onto those lender partners and, just maintaining, a respectful relationship is so important. Like, how have you found the relationships with your lender partners and how have you used those to your advantage?
Well, when I got into this brokering space, I went from dealing with like 3 lenders to now 50 different lenders. So the learning curve, even having as much experience as I did, was steep because you kind of had to learn everybody's policies and procedures, make those connections, have those one-on-one meetings, really understand what they're offering and how they're different, what's their niche product. So I think now that I've been in the game for as long as I have it really dialed in when I get a deal, which lender would this be most suitable for? So my goal is always A, where am I going to get the approval? And B, where am I going to get the best rate for my client?
So with client relationships, like what's your approach to building and maintaining strong client relationships?
So relationships and connections is basically how I've built my business. Like I said, a mortgage is a mortgage. It's really the care, the advice, the education piece, and how you help them navigate through that buying journey is sort of where I feel like I can add the value. I use that approach where I'm asking really good questions right from the onset. It's not about just let's get the documents, your pay stubs, let's order the appraisal. It's more, tell me about yourself. What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? How long do you plan to stay in this house? So I can build a bit of a strategy around what they're hoping to accomplish.
Our industry has changed so much since the pandemic and it's gone very virtual. Are you still meeting a lot of your clients or are you doing a lot of virtual work?
To be honest, I at every opportunity try and meet my clients, whether that's at the beginning of the application or at the end. I've had a lot of success getting new business as a result of that. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you're dealing with certain clients because I'm licensed in Alberta as well. You can't meet them. But whenever I can, I've driven out to North Vancouver, Abbotsford, Maple Ridge. It may take me 2 hours to get there, but I see the value in meeting my clients. And then my clients are very appreciative too, that I take the time and effort to meet with them.
I would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges that brokers face today is how do you actually build a true relationship with a client when you haven't met them?
Right.
And when everything went virtual, I mean, lots of people look at that and go, well, this is more efficient. I don't have to drive anymore. But I feel like the referrals, everything that you just hit on have definitely dwindled because you just don't have that relationship. And when it comes to a client potentially jumping ship to another bank or a broker, it's harder for them to do that when you've sat down and met with them and talked about their family and their plans and their goals, right? It's great to hear that. I like it.
As a mortgage broker, we're essentially the middleman in a lot of cases, waiting on a lender for an update or, whatever the case is, you're in the middle and it can be hard to ensure you give your client a smooth experience. It's your priority, but it's not always your control. What do you do to ensure a smooth experience for your clients?
So there's a couple of things. First is communication, making sure my communication is very clear and transparent. And I'm communicating with them in a way that they like to be communicated. Some people are texters, some people prefer the phone. So I always ask my clients, how do you prefer for me to communicate with you? So I can keep that process efficient. So after communication, that I think is really important is speed. The speed of how quickly you get back to them, how quickly you get back to the lenders, communication with the realtors. And this is something I learned from you guys. I never used to call the listing agent before. And now I've started doing that. It's part of my process. And it's been really interesting when they get that call. They're so thrilled because they're not expecting it. And, you call them, the borrower is approved, I'm handling the mortgage, and I've been able to make some new relationships because of that.
That's a great point. It's like to build new relationships with realtors, it's ultimately going to be a cold call in most cases, right? And that's as warm as a call as you can make, especially when it's good news that they're approved, right?
Right.
We always struggled when we first started doing that was when to do that call. And you mentioned like when they're approved, like that was typically our approach as well, is like, subjects are being removed, it's broker complete, what have you. We're not worried about maybe the client backing out of the deal and then that being an awkward conversation or ultimately just not getting approved. So did you always just start reaching out when they're approved, or did you test the waters there and like what worked best and what ultimately did not work in that case?
Yeah, so when I first started doing that, I wasn't sure. But I feel that if I call them at the time that I know that the subjects are good to go, they can be removed, that's a good time to call. Because sometimes there's still one or two things that might be pending, but they may be minor and can wait. So I kind of, of course, each client's different and you kind of gauge when that right time is.
Yeah. I find it so funny. Like when we had our conference early in March and we had the realtor panel and like all of those realtors said they never received that type of a call. And like one just received one and they were so pleased to receive that. And, reaching out to realtors can be scary for folks that don't do that because they might get rejected or what have you. But overall, like whether that person is having a bad day or just doesn't want to talk to you,
right,
they're going to be open to that conversation, especially when it's like, hey, I'm just giving you some good news. Like we're moving forward, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great tip I took away from that workshop was I was like, I don't do that. And maybe that's going to be part of my process. And I would highly recommend any broker to do that, adopt that.
That's a great tip for any listener on here that isn't actioning those calls. But another thing I just wanted to point out that you said speed. And it's always surprising how slow some people that are in business can be when it comes to communication. And like the way that we always built our team was the longer that we take to respond or make a request, whether it be a lender, a client, a lawyer, everything is just being delayed, right? And like a broker's goal through that journey is to get that deal done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. It's just so interesting that a lot of people don't operate in that fashion, right? A lot of people are responding to their emails every day, day and a half. So to stand out as a broker, I mean, it sounds easy and it truly is, right?
Right.
But I mean, clients rave about their broker because it was efficient and it was quick and they got their answer, before the end of the day. So I like that you brought that up.
And they're on edge because this experience can be overwhelming for them. So they're wondering where things are at. So keeping them in the loop throughout the process, also making them feel like they're like a top priority.
Yeah. 100%.
Like I learned this very early in my career. Actually, Dustin Woodhouse shared this with us is, if you have no update, make that the update to the client, right?
Yeah.
And it was so funny. It's like, call them and say we don't have an update, but it's like that goes such a long way. It's like, hey, just letting you know, we haven't heard from the lender, or we haven't heard from XYZ, but it's all good. We'll let you know. Like, just simple piece like that, opposed to just going dark for 2-3 days until you get the update, right?
Yeah. And sometimes you think, oh, what am I going to tell them? I don't have no news. But like you said, just even saying that as I'm waiting, I followed up. I'll keep you posted as soon as I hear something.
So on the topic of making clients happy, can you share a memorable client success story?
I've been fortunate to receive client appreciation in many ways. So whether it's, testimonials, 5-star Google reviews, heartfelt messages, I've even had clients make food and bring it for me. Maybe they look at me and think I need to eat more. But the most memorable one that I can think of is we had first-time home buyers that purchased their home, and they invited us to their housewarming party. And that was very special because your home is a very sacred space, and they invited us into that space and introduced us to all their family and friends. And to me, it was like, it's not just about celebrating their new home, it's being part of their story in a meaningful way.
Again, selfishly, I just look at the opportunity there of the other people you would meet within that circle, right? So it just goes back to show you like the importance of those personal, in-person type relationships. So moving on, personal development, and kind of where I wanted to start here is just being a broker, having a family, kids, sports, all, you name it. Like, it's a lot. What do you do to maintain a healthy work-life balance, given that, you have your family to take care of as well?
So one of the main reasons for me leaving my corporate job was because I needed that flexibility. I have 3 boys who are high-level athletes. So I just found working 9 to 5, I wasn't able to accommodate their schedules. Yeah. So that's what led me to leave that corporate world and start this brokering journey. So definitely work-life balance is huge for me. And I work 10 to 2 o'clock. I pick up my son, kind of do dinner, soccer, and then I can work again in the evening for a few hours. So I love the flexibility that this job allows me to make sure I provide that balance for work and family.
So what keeps you motivated and growing as a professional?
So it's really setting personal and professional goals is what keeps me motivated. It's something I do annually, and it's something that's embedded in me from a very young age. So that kind of just gives me the flow of what it is that I want to accomplish as the year progresses. Learning, making sure I'm staying on top of industry trends. Things are changing at a lightning speed in today's environment. So staying on top of everything, make sure that I'm growing, I'm working smarter and not harder. And I try and dedicate like 15-20 minutes a day just to stay on top of what's happening, current events.
I mean, that's nice to hear. And we're big goal planners as well. And, one thing we found we were lacking in the early days was we'd write these great plans and goals and then just never revisit it. And, believe it or not, just the tool of writing it down at the beginning of the year was at least a lot more than most. And we would always be so surprised at how much we got done in the year when we only wrote it once. But we've taken the time to revisit it at least quarterly. And to be honest, I'm looking at it monthly. Do you track and go back to your goal planning? And like, how often do you do that?
Yeah, quarterly. So I kind of have it etched in my brain because I know what it is that I want to do, what numbers I want to hit, what activities I want to do, what are some new things that I'm adding to my year this year, what do I want to continue doing? Because the list can be very long on things that we can be doing to improve ourselves, improve our business. So I kind of try and make a list that's manageable and that I'm going to be accountable for and get it done. And of course, things happen, life happens, and sometimes it doesn't happen in Q1. Then it's a reminder to make it a focus in Q2.
Totally. I think that's a big piece of it is it has to be realistic, right? If you create a laundry list, it's not going to happen. So dig in and choose the most important items and then execute. And I mean, I really enjoy working with you. I can't even count the amount of times that we've spoken about different strategies and things that you were going to implement. And whether it be, hiring someone to support your business or a strategy that you were going to work in or asking for Google reviews and then you actually execute on it, which for us in our shoes, it's really exciting and it really makes us, drive and want to come to work every day because we can actually give back. And, it's nice to see people implement in action. I've
noticed just with your social media, you're very involved in community, charity, those sorts of community type events. Is that a focus and part of your plan to be more involved in those? And then how do you balance once you get involved in that space? Because we've been there, there's just so much of it. And where do you like say yes or no ultimately to, all these requests? And yeah, just curious, like, what's your approach there?
Yeah, I actually enjoy attending a lot of the networking events. I think I do really well in that space. So I make an effort to go to galas, business networking events, community events, whether it's at the soccer field or it's a golf tournament. I find that's where I'm making new connections, building on existing relationships, because you need to be visible. People need to see you. So I think that's been really crucial to my success, is taking that time and investing that time in those events. And for me, that comes a little naturally because I actually enjoy going to these things.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And I know other brokers that do that, like they get so much more out of it than, ultimately what they're putting into it. Hey everyone, Dean here. Quick timeout from the episode to share with you the ABW Tuesday Mortgage Memo, your weekly market highlights sent directly to your inbox every Tuesday. This is certainly one you're not going to want to miss, so make sure to sign up now. You can do so with a link in the show notes, or you can head to joinabw.ca and sign up there. This is a high-level summary of market developments, regulatory updates, and housing trends every Tuesday. So hope you enjoy it, and back to the show. So, you mentioned just staying on top of trends, especially industry trends, and everything's moving so quick. Are there any books, podcasts, or industry resources that you'd recommend that are really helping you?
So in terms of books, I'm reading Be the Better Broker from Destin Woodhouse. It's a great book. I'm sure you guys have read it. I think an experienced broker, a new broker can get a lot of value from it. As far as podcasts, I'm on a bit of a self-awareness journey. So I've been, practicing meditation and mindfulness. So I'm listening to that type of content. I meditate every morning, and that's kind of sets my day.
I like that. It's something I've always wanted to spend more time on, and I've looked at. I just haven't dove in as deep as I should, but I've definitely played with the meditation, and even just like a couple minutes,
Right.
It's amazing how much it's helped me just have more energy and more clarity on what I'm trying to achieve.
It helps me just set the stage and kind of start my day on a high energy, and I kind of keep that momentum throughout the day. I have my moments, but I try.
I mean, talking about everything that you're involved in a day, from
Running a business, 3 kids, sports, countless events, I must say. I don't think I know many people that go to the amount of events that you do. I'm sure meditation really helps with that. It's a busy life and it's a busy schedule, and brokering has its good days and it has its bad days. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So just kind of last piece on the personal development topic. Have you ever engaged in any type of coaching, or do you have any plans to look into that?
Yeah, so that's something I'm looking to do for next year. I know you guys have been gracious and have presented us opportunities, so it's part of my plan for 2026. I'd love the opportunity to work with a coach and see how I can finesse my process and be better and be more efficient. Right now, I've got an assistant that I'm working with, so I've been coaching her. I've also got another mortgage broker that I'm working with that I'm providing some coaching to. Mm-hmm. So being coached is something that's part of the game plan for next year.
Yeah, I mean, we've always highly recommended coaching, and it's not for everybody, but I think probably the best way I could put it is it's an accountability partner, right? It's someone that you're coming to weekly, biweekly, monthly saying, these are the things I want to do, and they're going to help you execute. And then you have a follow-up meeting 2 weeks later. And if you're going to show up to that meeting and you've done nothing,
right.
So waste of your money, right? And time. So it's just a really big push to do everything that you've wanted to do. We've engaged in coaching for a long time, and it's really, really drastically helped.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It seems to become more of a therapy session in some cases, especially depending on what's going on in the day or the business. But yeah, I couldn't say enough about, the impact it's had on us. And with that, I'm just curious, moving, into impacts and where your business is at, and ultimately, where you've come from the last 8 years, what would you say is the biggest factor that's influenced your business today?
I would say it would have to be the daily activities. It's the daily calls, reaching out to clients, reaching out to referral partners, getting all your tasks done, having a consistent routine of things that need to be get done on a daily basis, staying organized. Being in the space as long as I have, I still pick up the phone and I'll call a colleague because I need a second opinion, or I'll call you, Deryk, and just say, I'm having a brain freeze and I kind of want to run this past you. Because there's so much change in our industry, you always have to make sure you're, totally sharp with your skills. And it's okay to go and ask for help when you need it.
Okay, so talking about organization, calls, how do you prioritize all that and what are you using to manage your day?
So typically the first few hours of my day is just making sure whatever deals are in the pipeline, those are looked after right away, because I'm usually either waiting for a lender, a client, an appraiser, or a lawyer. So I want to make sure they have everything they need so I can move on to the next file. So my goal is always first thing, get all of that submitted to the party so that they can be working, and then I can focus on all the other tasks and the activities.
Cool. Smart. That's the life of a broker. Always waiting.
Yeah.
Always waiting. I like it. So just moving into tools, tips, and tactics related to your business, what tools or software are essential in your day-to-day?
So outside of just the standard Velocity CRM, I use a spreadsheet to keep track of business that I've funded. And every year I'm adding more and more items to that list. For me, I think this year has been the adoption of AI, how I can use that to elevate my business, be more effective, how to use that to generate more social media content. So my clients are using AI, so I want to make sure that I understand how it's working and staying on top of the industry and technology changes.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to see a lot of continued changes in that side of the industry for sure. You do a ton on social media right now. Are you managing that all yourself currently?
So when I first started out, I did hire somebody to do that for me. And now I've got help from my kids that are sort of helping me with some of my posts. I just kind of send them screenshots and they get my posts ready for me. Because again, that's something that doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah.
So it's something that I am working a little harder towards.
Yeah, well, it looks great. And your kids are doing a good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you share a tip or strategy that's been a game changer for your business?
So the first thing that I've kind of been focusing on this year is really my mindset, staying positive, not reacting to situations. And when the going gets rough, being better equipped to handle those situations and not losing my cool and calm. As part of my self-awareness journey, that's something that I'm working on, is just making sure my mindset at any given time is in check. The other thing that's been a game changer for me this year is working out of the office. So when COVID happened, I started working out of home. I just felt that although there was nobody home, I was starting to derail and get distracted and throw in that load of laundry and start the dishwasher. And just going back to the office, I feel like has made an exponential difference in my business. You just get dressed, you look good, you feel good, you do great things, you spread greatness. Absolutely. And for me, that's been really effective this year.
I couldn't agree more. I pretty much followed the same journey, got very comfortable at home during COVID, actually at points really enjoyed it. And then it definitely got to a point where there's so many things that are easily distracted, like you mentioned, the household errands or whatnot that have to be done. And coming back to the office and just, being dressed and ready to work. It's all part of the mindset. It's like, we're going here to work, and that's that, right? And then you're almost more efficient in getting what you need to get done so you can get out.
Yeah.
Right?
I find I'm a powerhouse. I'm way more focused. I've got way more clarity. I'm getting things done, and I'm way more productive in that 4 hours at the office than I was in probably the entire day at home.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And I think your first point, the mindset piece is so important. I mean, I'm sure in a lot of industries, but certainly ours, because there's so much that can happen in a transaction that's out of our control. And I think you have to be able to go to sleep at night every night saying I did as much as I can. Right. And there are going to be tough situations. There's going to be, clients are always stressed. It's a fast paced, high stress environment. And I think you just have to be able to be confident in what you're doing as long as you're putting putting that good energy out there, right? And you're always doing the right thing. It just helps because things are going to go sideways and you have to be comfortable with what you're doing, right?
So looking ahead, what are your goals for next year? You might not be there quite yet, but is there anything that you're fostering or thinking about for next year?
Yeah. So for next year, again, continue setting those professional and personal goals like I do every year. But one thing I really want to focus on is my visibility on social media and doing more of these podcasts and educational content for my listeners and viewers. This is an area that I've really struggled with. It doesn't come naturally to me, like I was saying earlier. I really want to focus on making sure my visibility is there because people knowing that I'm knowledgeable isn't enough if I'm not visible.
Yeah.
And that visibility will lead into more opportunity. And I just wanted to share a couple of stories with you guys because I'm a very private person. Getting into this space was very challenging for me. I actually met with Suzanne Aujla when I first became a broker, and she was really instrumental in sort of helping me get started as a broker. Casually met for lunch, and I told her I went golfing on the weekend. She's like, I didn't know that. And she was like, you need to post that. And I'm like, nobody really cares. Do I really need to tell people that I'm golfing? She's like, of course, you may inspire some young person, it may inspire another woman to take up golf. So she kind of gave me that nudge to start sharing my personal life or just events that I attend. So I'm really grateful that she kind of gave me that boot a little bit because otherwise I probably wouldn't have done it.
I like that. I mean, sometimes that's all it takes is somebody to just, nudge you and give you that awareness.
And then another story I have is I had done a real estate seminar with a couple of real estate agents. And again, I kind of gave them that, I'm a really private person spiel. And they both looked at me. It was Randy Mann and Jag Bahad. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's free advertising. Like, why wouldn't you be taking advantage of that? You need to be online. You need to be posting. You need to be sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And so again, it's a journey that's taken me some time. So next year, that's definitely my goal, is to start doing more content and doing more videos and sharing my knowledge with others.
I like the personal aspect of that. Like you talk about golf, right? I always found, you can post mortgage content and tips and educational stuff, which is important because you gain trust with, followers. But posting that personal stuff, people find a connection. Right? Like maybe there's someone that golfs and they just golfed at that golf course, but people seeing you with your kids and on a trip, it's like you're a real person. You're not just a mortgage broker. Right. And I think that really, really helps with social media content, brand awareness. And it's just people want to work with a broker that's a real person. Right.
So the mortgage industry is evolving so much more than ever. How are you preparing for that? And how do you see the mortgage industry evolving?
Yeah, so in our space, there's definitely digitalization, market volatility, consumer expectations. There's just so much that's happening in our space right now that we need to prepare for. And for me, it's really just being authentic, staying true to myself, keeping myself up to date, being transparent, positioning myself as a lifelong advisor.
I think that's key. And all I'm hearing, especially in the States with, people in the mortgage industry that we follow and know from our days working with a coach in the States, they're noticing so many of, the rate discount companies and those types of online focused businesses in our space are going towards AI and more so on the digital aspect of our business. And what humans are really looking for is that lifelong advisor, and the advisor is going to be really what separates us from the robots, essentially, right?
Oh, for sure. That human element is still very important because every client's journey is unique. So you kind of have to be able to plan and strategize for their short-term, long-term goals, which AI is great, but it can't do all of that for you yet.
Yeah. And, we've talked about this on previous episodes. We've talked about this at many industry events and, just with AI, whether it's a bank that, starts to implement AI for clients to tap into, at some point, humans are going to lose trust in who's programming this AI robot or chatbot or whatever it is. And just, again, back to everything we talked about, just the personal connection, the relationships. I truly believe humans are going to be looking for another human to just
100%.
verify whatever is being, populated out of these AI robots.
Absolutely, because clients can search online for information, for rates, for mortgage payments. What they're really looking for is that personalized advice. and that transparency and the accuracy, and somebody that can really give them proper guidance throughout that journey.
Everyone is already getting to a point where, ChatGPT is like, it has to be true. And it's like, I find it making mistakes all the time. So like, you just never know. You can't just fully rely on whatever you're reading. And so even just, an advisor to just give you their experience, opinion, and what they would do is sometimes more than enough, right? So
I also think you need to consider the process that a client goes through, right? Like 9 out of 10 clients won't be able to produce the documents that you've requested without support and help and conversation and, advice on how to collect those, let alone the latter half of this process. So I do think we're a long ways away from that. But I mean, to your point, it'll definitely benefit the industry.
Yeah, we just have to embrace technology.
Absolutely.
completely.
Yeah.
So, just before we kind of close out, what advice would you give to a new mortgage broker today?
I would say to keep your moral compass in check. I think your integrity is everything in this business. Think long term. There's no price tag on your integrity. Like, if you are transparent with your clients, there's always solutions. So if a lender doesn't work, it's an alternative or a private or it's somebody else. As brokers, that's the beauty of being a broker. We can provide those solutions that maybe their bank can't. It's at what cost and at what price.
Great advice.
I like that, especially just like the long-term thinking approach. Like so many people are so short-term, and that's where you'll make integrity mistakes, right?
Right. Because your business is built on trust, and trust builds successful relationships.
Yeah.
Totally.
The other thing I wanted to say was just monitor your daily habits, like become self-aware of, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening? Who are you giving your energy to? And then just transforming that to building yourself to see how it can add value to make you more successful. We get so caught up in the social media stuff too. And sometimes we're like all guilty of it. We're aimlessly scrolling.
Yeah.
Look at what's the content you're watching.
Yeah.
And is that really adding any value to your life? Just self-awareness, stay positive. And lastly, you're not alone. People tend to work, in silos in this business, but, look at our firm. We've got such a big community and such great resources where we can reach out to each other. Just don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask for help.
I couldn't agree more. And it can be a very lonely and like business because we're just working on our own, right? But it's a good point, like just surrounding yourself with good people. And we're very fortunate to be surrounded by such good agents that are so willing to help. In that same vein, like what's the best career advice you've ever received?
For me, it's focus on the relationships, do the right thing. The money will come. If you're helping people and you're guiding them and giving them honest, good advice, everything else will fall into place.
I mean, when you talk about repeat business and referral, right? Like that's where it comes from.
Right.
It's the good advice. It's the client coming up for renewal and knowing that you can't compete and giving them that advice and helping them secure maybe something a little bit better from their existing institution, right? Those things go so far. And like people getting into this business, you have to prepare, like depending on how old you are, you might be in this for 20 years, right? So you have to think long term. So yeah, really good advice. I mean, I know you just made a nice comment about the brokerage, but why did you choose to join a Better Way Mortgage Group, and what do you enjoy most about it?
Yeah, so I joined A Better Way 8 years ago when Mark and Lucky were here, and then you guys took over the brokerage, and you guys provide unmatched guidance, support, commitment. You truly go out of your way, like you show up for us and you help us grow, elevate, and succeed. I really appreciate all the workshops, the masterminds, the lunch and learns, all the fun events, the winter galas. Like you guys really go out of your way to make us feel valued. And I feel like our values align. And I'm such a big advocate of A Better Way. Whenever I meet somebody, I'm always highly recommending you guys to anybody I know. I love the culture here.
Oh, we appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, we do everything we can because we just appreciate and enjoy the people we're working with. Like we feel very blessed to, work with such great people that are so willing to share and create that culture. So appreciate those kind words, and you're a huge part of that. So thank you for that. Just any final thoughts, comments from you, before we wrap?
Yeah, for the listeners, if, they're looking for any advice, they want a second opinion, I'm always here to help guide you through that journey. Call me, 1-604-621-2929.
Oh, thank you so much. And again, this was like a true pleasure. Like you're just a great, easy conversation. You have so much to give and we appreciate you coming on. So thank you.
Thank you so
Very
much.
proud to
This
have you
was
on the
amazing.
team.
Thanks,
Ruby.
Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it. Lastly, a vital announcement about Backpack Buddies, our chosen charity for 2025. This remarkable organization addresses a hidden hunger issue many are unaware of in British Columbia. While school districts provide meals during school hours, numerous children face food scarcity at home, particularly during the weekends. Backpack Buddies steps in to support these vulnerable children, ensuring they have easy to prepare, familiar food for weekends. This is achieved through collaborations with schools and an extensive distribution network. Your contribution can make a significant difference. With just $20, you can give a child in need a food bag from Backpack Buddies filled with enough meals and snacks to sustain them over the weekend and more. Once again, thank you for listening and see you on the next one.